Jordan Fiorentini, yay, woo, in the house.
Who is that? Oh no, there's always a loudmouth in every tasting. You know? Love you, Chuggy. Please speak up a lot. Hello, Cheryl.
Oh, and Sarah, Audrey.
Okay.
Cheryl says hi.
We're going to give it another minute, I think. We are actually at 37 participants, though it was climbing earlier today. We were upwards of 50. So we'll see. I'll try to keep an eye on that. Decided to do it Brady Bunch style, not webinar, to keep it friendly, but you can always change your view and put it on speaker view. So whoever's speaking, you can see their face if you like. Hello, Kareem. Hello, Cynthia. Hi, Fritz. I'm saying hi to the Michigan peeps. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Audrey. Thanks for your help on all of this. Hi, Dave. Dave Smith, my longest standing faithful wine bar attendee from my on-premise days. Okay, more people coming in. What time is it? I think we can go ahead and start officially. Please start sipping. I always forget to say that, whether you've got one of the wines or all four, please start enjoying them. By the way, Marshall Ware is in the house. Jordan, I don't know if you remember, but Marshall visited you and he took awesome pictures. He's honorary part of our team, official sometimes. And he normally answers techno and regional questions, but Marshall, not tonight, because these people are true experts in everything Paso. Okay. Welcome. If I haven't met you, because we have fans of both Ancient Peaks and Epoch Estate coming from everywhere, including Hawaii, and a number of people from Chicago, as well as our faithful Michigan contingent. I'm Madeline Trifon. I am the happy sommelier for Plum Market at our 4 Michigan stores and also our lone beautiful Chicago store in Old Town. I've been wanting to do this tasting for a long time. And I was lucky enough, this is what I'm calling Paso Revelation, because that's what it was for me. Thanks to a couple people who are here this evening, Amanda Wittstrom Higgins and my dear friend and fellow sommelier from way back when, Chuck Furuya, one of my favorite people on the planet. I was invited to a wonderful very intimate, terrific symposium called Wine Speak. Was it January of this year? It seems like a century ago, considering what's been going on in these extraordinary times. And it wasn't the last time I flew, but one of the last times I flew. And from the moment I landed, Amanda had insisted I rent a car, and I'm going, why should I rent a car, you know? I realized it when I started driving around, how incredibly beautiful it is. And to the people, from the moment I entered the hotel and Chuck had his Hawaii sommelier contingent there, and then I got to meet Amanda and experienced the staggering community of Paso. And then finally the vineyards, which kind of stopped my mind, and the wine. I, within 24 hours, thought this is new, you know, American classic in terms of terroir growing region. And I'm deeply grateful. So I've been noodling how to do this. And then one day a little angel just went, you know, you met these two wonderful women and you visited their wineries and enjoyed their hospitality. Why don't you do it centered around them? And I thought, what a good idea. And they agreed, and they're friends, and they already collaborate. So that's the short version of why I fell in love and why we are doing this evening. People may have some ideas about what Paso Robles is about, including, all warm climate Cabernet Sauvignon. But the wines we're going to experience tonight and the terroir we're going to talk about tonight aren't going to dissolve that, but they're certainly going to expand it. We put together some slides for fun. We're not always going to keep to them. I just like the entertainment factor. If you can keep yourself muted, but if we take a breath and you want to say something or comment, please do. Marshall, will you do me a favor? Just take, somebody asked me, was Wine Speak my introduction to Paso? I had been once before, but like a long time ago, and it was inland and it was only to a couple of wineries, and the terroir and the climate was very different. So this was revelatory. Marshall, keep an eye on the chat room in case there's something we should answer. Would you mind doing that? And you can just speak up if there's a cool question going on. That said, keep the questions coming. We're going to probably take a solid hour to get through this. And then per usual, I'll hang out a little bit later. We may liberate Amanda and Jordan, who might have to go back to their families or to work, but we can hang out and talk. And chat room Jedi, yes, that's what you are, Marshall. So thank you for being here, and a special big hug to Cheryl and Chuck from Hawaii. You made my day, possibly several days. So I want to introduce my friends. I'm going to show you actually a dead cool picture here. Hold on just a second. I'm very proud of the fact that I actually even know how to share a screen. So, I had this idea just a little while ago to combine their absolutely gorgeous logos. Aren't they beautiful? Ancient Peaks and Epoch Estate. And better still, we have pictures of the ladies here, though you're going to hear them in person momentarily. This is, I want to be a cowgirl in my next life. I truly do. This is a shot of Amanda when she was part of the 40 Under 40 by the Wine Enthusiast. And she just was, like a month ago, I believe, voted by her peers as the Central Coast Wine Personality of the Year. Bravo, Amanda. And we have Jordan Fiorentini. I'm never going to be able to do this again in this life. I'm going to have to be 14 in my next birth, but she's punching down, standing on a precarious board. And Jordan is the winemaker. And actually, you direct most of the production too, don't you, Jordan?
Yes, I see the vineyards and the winemaking.
The whole thing. After an extensive search, the owners of Epoch Estate found Jordan, who, by the way, has an engineering degree from Dartmouth, just as like a little PS in case you don't know, she's razor sharp. Has a master's in viticulture, yes, from UC Davis, and has been with Epoch for how long now?
Oh, this is my 11th harvest.
11th harvest. What we're going to do is start sipping on whatever wine you like. If you have the white, please start sipping on that. But Amanda is going to give us a little overview of Paso. Jordan, you're a doll to join us this evening, and we will turn to the wine momentarily. But Amanda, would you come on board and tell us what we need to know about these growing regions where Epoch and Ancient Peaks shine?
Well, thank you, Madeline and Jordan, and all of you for joining us this evening. What a treat to be with you. I've been following these events that Madeline does very regularly. And we were so excited. I know I'm speaking for Jordan and myself. We were so excited to join you all today. And thank you for supporting us from, a couple of small family businesses. We are so grateful that you choose, to take a chance with our wines. And thank you, Madeline, for spreading the word about the region of Paso Robles and also our two brands. If you haven't had a chance to visit the Paso Robles region, we certainly hope that you will come when travel regulations loosen up. But we're located halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles, just about between 14 and 20 miles from the Pacific Ocean. Just to the left of the AVA, you'll notice a faint line that outlines the Santa Lucia mountain range. And this is really important.
Is this it right here? Is this what?
Yeah, it's exactly, kind of runs up the coastline. And that's a huge mountain range and is really the barrier to the Pacific Ocean, and one of the reasons that makes Paso Robles very unique. Paso Robles as a region was created in 1983. It's one of the larger AVAs in the state, covering just about 600,000 acres. And most of you are wine pros, but AVA stands for American Viticultural Area. And so on the map that you see, the dotted line is what the outlining boundary for the AVA is. And then you'll notice a number of different colored parcels with other names, and those are actually sub-AVAs. So the region was founded in 1983, and then the sub-AVAs were created in 2014.
Now, let me see if I got this right. I'm going to interrupt because this was staggering to me. First of all, I'm supposed to know stuff, and I didn't know that there were 11, count them, 11 sub-AVAs. And actually, York Mountain is its own little cat because it's outside of the Paso boundary. But this was agreed upon by the producers, correct? Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. And York Mountain is where Epoch calls home. And it's a beautiful, one of the most historic properties in the region. Jordan's going to tell you all about it, but her and her company have renovated this magical property, and we're just so thankful to have them. So the AVA in total covers 600,000 acres. There's about 40,000 of which are planted. And it's all over, but we formed as a group, an action committee to help tell the story of our region, because from York Mountain, where Jordan sits, to the San Juan Creek area, it's close to 25 miles away, or I said it's nearly 25 miles away. And the terrain greatly shifts from one area to another. You guys, I don't know, do you have earthquakes, Madeline? I don't think you do.
We do not have earthquakes.
Okay.
We are blessed with everything. We have the Great Lakes. We're, knock on wood, not going to run out of water probably, but we don't have earthquakes, no.
So one of the things that's terrifying about California is there's a lot of earthquakes. There's a tremendous amount of geologic activity. But what's wonderful from a winemaking and a grape growing perspective is there's a huge variety of soil profiles. And I know Jordan will be showing you one soil profile, and in a few slides we'll show you another. But this terrain is one of the reasons that there was the creation of 11 sub-AVAs, in addition to the Pacific Ocean. So
that's the biggie, right? Because this is where your estate is located, correct? Which is, what did you say, 14 miles from?
14, and the average, I think the range between the entire AVA is, 11 or 12 to close to 30 miles from the ocean. But that ocean in the west, the wind blows off of the ocean onto the land, and the water here is very cold. So it's an air conditioner. And so that diurnal temperature swing from daytime highs to nighttime cools really affects the area. And depending on where you're at in the region, you can have quite a variance in those temperatures. You can also have quite a variance in annual precipitation, as well as soil profile.
Well, I'm going to interrupt here just for a second. I'll tell you why this stopped my mind. When all y'all told me, I learned that's what you say in the South. If it's several people, you say all y'all. When I heard when we say diurnal shift, we mean the difference between daytime and nighttime temperatures, as Amanda said. Wait for it. Mendoza, Argentina is proud at 40 degrees Fahrenheit difference. And you guys will swing between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit between daytime and nighttime temperatures, depending on what time of year. So even though if it's 100 during the day, the little grapes are going to get plenty of, hibernative acidity saving cold temps at night, right? And the winds are growing in. Is this Cuesta Grade down here?
The Cuesta Grade is close to San Luis Obispo. Yes, that little dot on the.
And then the Templeton Gap is where the other, where the winds also come in. So I just am very excited about the diurnal shifts. So I wanted to.
Well, and I have to let Jordan, she does a beautiful job at explaining why that's important from a grape growing perspective. So Jordan, you have to tell in your Dartmouth educated.
So we have a couple of things, many things going for us, but the diurnal temperature swings are definitely one of the main factors that keep the wine fresh in your mouth. Although we have so much sunshine, it gets super ripe. So you have these like really ripe California flavors, but then you have great acidity. And it just creates this style of wine. I think it's all over Paso, even though we all have our own microclimates, that's very memorable.
Can you tell us why, by the way, if we're paying attention to this, what's the blend here, Jordan, on the Epoch?
This is a Grenache Blanc Viognier Roussanne blend. And our white wine is normally Grenache Blanc driven with a good amount of Viognier and a little bit of Roussanne. And that was very purposeful to keep it very fresh, not ever too heavy. We like to highlight the minerality in all of the wines. This is a very good example of that. And I do that in the vineyard, through things in the vineyard and then in the winery as well.
Well, I think I described it to you when I took my first sip. And if you don't mind, because our guests are always like annoyed if we don't describe what we're perceiving. This to me has this combination of terrific, lush, plump fruit, perfectly ripe, not overripe. And it reminds me of both fresh and dried apricots and peaches. And then you have this salinity, like a salty quality that's in the aftertaste, which is, I guess, where the minerality plays in. But
crushed seashells, I love that.
Crushed seashells, that's what I said. Yes. So and you didn't seem to mind that description.
No,
well, these are the folks who own.
Yes, these are Bill and Liz Armstrong, who are the owners. They founded Epoch in 2004. They're both geologists from Denver. And they fell in love with the soils in Paso Robles.
And they love Rhone varietals, ergo Grenache Blanc and Viognier, right?
Yes, exactly. So they fell in love with the soils. They wanted to make Rhone variety grapes, and this was the great area. They fell in love with the people and the climate. And so just so much potential to, make your dreams come true. So I started planting a piece of property on the west side of Paso Robles. It's about 2.5 miles west of downtown Paso. We'll see more slides, but it's our Paderewski Vineyard, which is where they were standing. We just showed a picture of our concrete fermenters, our tulips, and our eggs. And I use these a lot for winemaking, specifically in the white and some of the reds, but always in the white, as it helps me bring the minerality and elegance to the forefront of these.
I wasn't going to ask you till later, but Amanda actually nudged me to make sure we show some of these fermentation vessels that you use, because you play with a lot of them. I got to tell you, I think eggs are the cutest damn thing on the planet. They really are. And
I just love with them. Thank you.
Why?
I love the vessels, and it's still an ongoing journey, but since I joined Epoch, and I had this idea of the style of wines that I wanted to make, but and what I wanted to do, which was highlight the site and the area more than anything, but create age-worthy wines that had lots of gravitas elements, which are elements besides just like fruit and oak to me. So minerals and earthiness. And I do that. Concrete really helps me. I've trialed up so many different things, and I'm very fortunate that I've been able to do that. But it's one of the ways that I can highlight the freshness and the purity of the site.
Why do these shapes do that? Can you give us the short, layman's version? Because I'd like to know.
Yeah, I can't really say specifically that the shape is the most important thing, although they're very beautiful. It's more so the material. So your wine isn't touched with an earthen material. It's porous. It's constantly, evolving and changing as it ages. And the material of concrete helps highlight the mineral aspects of the wine, and it keeps the wine fresh as opposed to maybe aging in small format barrel. Those would be like two opposites.
So as opposed to stainless steel, you have oxygen transfer, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. There's not nearly as much as a small barrel, but
Right.
Stainless steel is inert, but you wouldn't want to keep your wine in a stainless steel tank for forever. It would.
I can't say the name of this vineyard, so she told me I can say Ruski, right?
You can call it the Ruski, the Rue. We call it was Paderewski Vineyard, Paderewski. This is the property that Bill and Liz Armstrong found in 2004 and had dreams of planting the vineyard on. And it had once been a vineyard. That's the cool thing. In the early 1900s, there was a famous Polish composer and statesman named Ignacy Paderewski, and he was a concert pianist traveling around the United States in a rail car, and he was beloved by all. He was the Elvis Presley of his time. And he came to Paso Robles to soak in the mineral hot springs here to cure his rheumatoid arthritis while he was in between concerts, fell in love with Paso, bought a piece of property and planted grapevines. And the piece of property he bought, the heart of that is our Paderewski vineyard now. So we studied what he did back then. He fell in love with the area, and the Armstrongs did too. And then subsequently I did when I came to visit. And he planted Zinfandel and Petit Syrah, which they called Durif back then. They still do in some parts of the world. And so we planted those varieties, but we're mostly a Rhone house, and we also grow Tempranillo. So
now these are the cutouts that show. This is when I saw this stuff, it just stopped my mind. Tell us about it's the horizontal grading, correct, on this?
Yeah, so that's great that you saw Bill and Liz in there, because they've educated me on they're geologists, and the fact that we have these limestone calcareous and then shale soils on the west side of Paso Robles that are really important for making high-end wine and throughout the world. They've always said limestone containing soils are really great.
Burgundy, yes, and
Burgundy
calcareous,
and
Champagne.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that they're fractured means that the roots of the vines can go deep into the soils and penetrate the rock in search of nutrients and moisture. And all of these fractured vertically and horizontal soils are what make the soils so great for grape growing here. And this picture is cool because you see it's called an anticline, where the fracturing of the soil changes direction. So you see that like the earth was pushed against each other a long time ago. The buckbrush is actually growing on top of this, even though there's basically no topsoil, because
wow,
roots can penetrate, very well drained. And as Amanda will talk about as well, these soils were once the bottom of the ocean floor. And so I only brought my rocks because I know she has her rocks, and I got but I'm holding two rocks that we found in our vineyard, which are actually whalebone vertebrae from, I don't know, gazillions of years ago.
Somebody asked a quick question before we taste red wine. What's the science behind the concrete oxidation, breathability? But I think you spoke to that, right?
Yeah, it's porous, but we talk about, oxygen breathability in all vessels is a huge topic in winemaking, and it's very complex. But for me, the oxygen I'm getting when I fill a concrete vessel, it's probably the oxygen that is embedded in the pores at the time of filling. There's not really oxygen going through the concrete during the aging process. It was probably as the wine sort of travels in those layers, it's kind of, it might go into a new pour every, 6 months and then find some oxygen.
If you flip this around, I'm a big believer in back labels. I like to remind people, this is very interesting because it's almost equal portions, white Grenache and Viognier. So you've got sort of the soul of the Southern and the Northern Rhone dancing together here. Are you happy with how this turned out? Because I think it's just lovely.
I love this vintage specifically. And what I have to say to everyone is this wine is wonderful with some age on it. So I know we all want it. We love the freshness, the bright fruit, but as it gets some more secondary and tertiary aromatics as it ages, becomes just even more interesting and serious.
Do you have like a favorite dish or dishes that just melt into this wine?
Oh,
Remember that veal over pasta? That was like,
Describe the dish. Describe the dish. Come on.
Jordan had it twice, so you tell it. I
because I
can't.
got obsessed with it, but it was during Wine Speak, and a famous sommelier who we all know, Randy Caparoso, who's such a great wine writer as well. He had the idea. We were doing a whole wine luncheon with different people's wines from Paso, but I had the only white, but he made it the main course. So we had 2 Cabernet based wines before mine, one with a scallop and one with a salad. So he was sort of turning the traditional wine dinner on its head. And then he paired this with this incredible pasta, creamy veal dish. And it was so amazing.
We're going to have to bother Randy for the recipe. That sounds killer. By the way, note to everyone, serving white with the correct accompanying food or harmonious food after big reds is not counterintuitive. It often shows the white off better, in my limited opinion. So here I am agreeing with Randy, who's really making it a mission in life to educate the universe about food and wine harmony. We have Danny Robertson drinking the 2017 Epoch. So
great. Awesome. How's the taste? I hope it tastes good.
It says it's delicious. Yes.
Okay.
And I think if you like now and want to transition to red, hold the thought, Jordan. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about everything, but we're going to go ahead and pick up your Ancient Peaks Zinfandel if you've got it. And we're going to, oh, look, you've got all the wines. They shared their wines with each other. Yay. We're going to taste the Zin. I love this this bottle shot with the different soil types. And tell us, here we go, soil types. Yay.
Yeah, so one of the things that makes Paso Robles and many, wine regions special is the earth that the vines are grown in. And Zinfandel has a deep legacy in the Paso Robles region and was kind of the hallmark varietal for a number of years. And so we're proud to produce this wine, although you'll find today that the majority of the area is planted to Cabernet Sauvignon. Almost 50% of what's planted is Cabernet Sauvignon in the Paso Robles region. However, if you combine all the Rhone varietals, they make up a sizable percentage of total plantings within the area itself. But Zinfandel for us is a special wine. In our Margarita Vineyard, we grow 17 different varietals. But the Zinfandel is very interesting because we've got 3 different clones. We've got the Taldeschi, the Deaver, and the Rock Pile clone, and they're all grown in different soil profiles and offer something very unique. And so this 2017 vintage was actually 2017 ended our drought year. We had one of the most significant droughts in the last 100 years, I believe it was. And 2017 ended that. And so for that, it's kind of an exciting year. And, this block, or the blocks that this comes from, it's got all 3 of the different clones that are incorporated. And I just love the 17. If you flip back, I think we missed I wanted to introduce.
No problem. I wanted to show the Margarita Vineyard, but why don't you introduce these friendly guys?
So the Ancient Peaks is owned by 3 local families. I'm blessed to be one of the 3 families, and I've been with our company since we started in 2005. And my father is to my left in the image. His name is Carl, and then Rob Rossi and Doug Filipponi are our 2 partners. So together we have our Margarita Vineyard, which is just under 1,000 acres under vine, and that vineyard sits on one of the most historic cattle ranches in California.
I had to put this in here because this is a very cool shot. And also, let me remember if I got this statistic right, Amanda, because I think it was maybe Doug or your dad who told me when I was there that the 3 of them decided to co-buy this 14,000 acre property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because they were annoyed that, types from Silicon Valley were coming down, and they wanted to preserve the integrity of this land. Did I screw up the story, or is that true?
Well, I think that they are really proud as all people that grew up and really created their own success from a bootstrap perspective. And Doug actually grew up on a dairy farm just a mile from this ranch, and my father grew up in about 20 miles from here. But this Santa Margarita Ranch is viewed as kind of the crown jewel of ranches in our area. And so when they had an opportunity to purchase it together and continue the legacy of agriculture and keep the land intact, I think that it was really a special moment. And as someone mentioned, the vineyard was actually planted by the Robert Mondavi family in the late 1990s. And unfortunately, they never saw a grape really off of the ranch because they ended up selling in 2005, and we were able to take control of this lease.
I just love this story because, where was I at your hospitality center? It is one of the more magical places I've been to in California because it was at night. There were just tons of stars. There wasn't a sound. It was just glorious. I just loved it. And this is one of the oldest continuously working cattle ranches, correct? In
Absolutely.
California.
And it's something that we take a lot of pride in, and all of us are actively involved in. I mean, I laugh and say we ride horses and chase cows around for fun, but it's kind of true. I was riding my horse last night, and it's I just love agriculture, and it's such a joy to be able to share the wines that we create from this vineyard with people like you from around the country, because it's a little piece of home that, we're so happy and grateful that it makes it to your dinner table. So on the, in the image here, you can see our Margarita Vineyard. It actually spans almost 6 miles. And when Jordan was talking about geologic activity and some of those soil profiles that she's got in her 3 different sites, which are all amazingly, planted, laid out, her vineyards are really incredible. We're really lucky to be in this area that's about 20 miles south of the actual town of Paso Robles, but butted up against the Santa Lucia mountain range.
I'm going to show this map again. Here we go.
There's a huge mountain range. It's called the Cuesta Grade, that is just to the west of us. And it's very, very dramatic, and actually is the reason for the name Ancient Peaks. When you're in the vineyard, it's so profound. All you see is this mountain range. And then as you start going around and looking at the soil profiles, you notice that, like Jordan said, there's a number of different soil profiles. This is more of a shale profile that's similar to some of the images that Jordan was showing. But this is what I think is most interesting. And this is actually a petrified oyster shell.
An oyster? Are you kidding me?
I know. I don't think anyone could eat an oyster that's this large. But what's interesting is about 10 million years ago, where our vineyard is situated at today was a seashore. And after talking to oyster farmers, these oysters only survive in about 40 feet of water. So it's just, to think of the amount of time we each as individuals spend on Earth, and how much bigger the world is, and the universe than we are, is pretty incredible. But seeing this is really magical. And it's also an incredibly important soil profile from a grape growing perspective. And so Zinfandel is planted in a combination of shale in this oyster profile, as well as a few other soil profiles on the ranch. And so even though we're coming from an estate vineyard, it's almost 6 miles from tip to tip, with a number of different clones and a number of different soil profiles.
And this is the southernmost, Margarita Ranch is the southernmost AVA in Paso, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And being tucked up against that mountain range and so close to the ocean, we receive a lot of rainfall, perhaps more than many of the other sub-AVAs. And there's a really wide diversity of soils. And so our ranch actually occupies almost 50% of the Santa Margarita Ranch sub-AVA.
And drum roll, this is you have the vineyard site in Santa Margarita Ranch, correct? So this is the only vineyard site in the AVA. Do I have that right?
Yes, Yes, currently, I think that some of our neighbors are going to be developing their property, which would be wonderful if they could help spread the word of the region. But yeah, for now, we're the only commercial vineyard. But if you have a bottle in front of you, one of the things that I'm really proud of and love is the label. The front label is an artist depiction of the different soil profiles that you find and strata layers within the vineyard. And then on the back, you'll actually see kind of a legend of the different soil profiles that are found in the vineyard, which I really love because it's all about sense of place. And there's so many beautiful wines produced from all over the world. I was on a conference just a couple hours ago, Madeline, where you were talking about the wines of the Rhone Valley. And
Yes.
it was just sense of place and people, and I'm so thankful to work alongside wonderful people like Jordan and all of our mutual friends, Chuck Freya, who's better known as Cheryl on Zoom accounts. But it's so magical to be able to share the world of wine and our small region with so many people throughout the world.
I want to describe this Zin, if you don't mind, because I think it kind of blows up preconceived notions of Paso Reds. I mean, it's positively refreshing. I think that the fruit profile is just so juicy. You guys describe it as boysenberry, and I think it's juicier than jammier. It's perfectly ripe. And there's oak in there, but it's just folded into it. It doesn't dominate at all. But I have to actually read off the food that you recommend with it, because pepper jack cheeseburgers, yes. And somebody's going to tell me what Santa Maria style tri-tip is. What is that, Amanda?
So Santa Maria style tri-tip is tri-tip is a cut, and I can't even remember the Chuck we just call it tri-tip. I can't remember. Chuck will have to chime in a little while. But it's what everyone cooks around here, and it's not widely known outside of our area, but it's like it's Santa Maria style, and it's a certain cut of, I want to say it's
a steak. Is it a Chuck? Can you chime in? Is it a steak?
Yeah, do you remember, Chuck? I should know.
Beef.
Sirloin. So it's tri-tip. It's just a cut of beef, and they just do it with all these spices and whatnot. It's just Zinfandel has a.
I was going to say, the way they cook it, they have the cooker that has the wheel, and they constantly raising it and lowering it over the fire.
Yeah, so you always on oak over an open flame with just a simple salt, pepper, garlic, salt, onion onion powder is.
Okay, another recipe I'm going to ask for. But is the cut similar to a cowboy steak? Is it like that type of thing?
I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm gonna have someone look that up.
That's great, because I'm going to send it to this academy, so they know. We're talking about food, and everyone's going to be hungry. By the way, everyone say hello to my dear friend Chuck Ferruya, who we
have a visual of the stage.
We went through the Master Sommelier program together when we were in the single digits. I'm going to date us both. We're pterodactyls in the late 80s.
Here's a tri-tip right here if you're interested. We're having it for dinner tonight.
You're kidding. Seriously?
A little thicker than normal. It's like probably 2 inches. So nicely seasoned, ready to go on the grill.
And Audrey, who works with Jordan, has just hooked us up with a New York Times recipe for Santa Maria tri-tip. Yeah, and this is the career vegetarian talking, but hey, maybe I'll try that treatment with eggplant or something like that. So Amanda, I'm going to nudge us both to move to the Renegade, but I will tell you, hats off to your winemaker. This is juicy, refreshing Zinfandel that still shows its wonderful. I always think, one of my friends says, Zin is like taking the entire vine and shoving it into the bottle. You get this combination of ripe fruit and plant material and a little bit of a gnarly character, but this is very lifted, and the alcohol is very balanced on it. So bravo.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Zinfandel is one of the most difficult grapes to actually grow because it's very uneven and ripening, and So your words mean an awful lot, and I will certainly pass them along.
Please do. And now you're going to tell us about the blend. We decided to do, by the way, and these friends of mine agreed to do the 2 Ancient Peak reds nestled in the middle. And we're not cutting Jordan out of the conversation. She's going to be the caboose with her Epoch Estate red. So chime in with any comments you want, Jordan, but tell us about this Renegade red, Amanda.
So the Renegade is a really fun wine. We created it, several years ago, but it was really to highlight Syrah. And we've got an amazing few blocks of Syrah planted in the vineyard. And Syrah by itself is delicious and beautiful, but it felt like we could help tell the story of our property and the other varietals by making it a blend. And so we really wanted it. Originally created, it was Syrah, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. But this year, we found Zinfandel and Petit Syrah found their way into the blend. But it's a tip of the hat to the spirit of the region. And one of the things that I love about Paso Robles is its lack of history. So many other regions, greatly tout their legacy of wine growing and winemaking. And for us, the spirit of carving our own path, there's so much magic in that. And so like Jordan has Zinfandel and a number of other varietals that are perhaps not Rhone varietals, of which she typically focuses on. This Renegade doesn't quite fit the mold of anything, but it's really, we felt like it was the most interesting wine without any restrictions from varietal composition. And so again, this is 37% Syrah, 24% Malbec, and 16% Petit Verdot, with the balance being Zinfandel and Petit Syrah. But Petit Verdot and Malbec on our ranch in particular.
I was about to ask why.
Well, Petit Verdot has amazing structure. It's got great color, and it just has this strength and weight, but also lift and acid. Mm-hmm. And so having the ability to play with that, as well as with Syrah and Malbec from our property has this just beautiful aromatics. And so,
oh my God, it's so perfumed. You ripped the words out of my mouth, because it's got a floral expression that I just love when I pick that up in reds. And so, you've got the little sort of meaty, peppery business with the Syrah, the floral component on the Malbec, that nice structural grip with the Petit Verdot, and then Zin and Petit Syrah are joining the party. Do you get involved with the blends at all? I'm curious.
I do. I can't take credit for it. I'm a humble opinion, but it's certainly it's a group decision, and we have a terrific winemaking team that's been together since really the inception of our company. Mike Seiner is our founding winemaker, and Stuart Cameron is our winemaker, and we've been working together for the last 15 years, and it's so wonderful. Like what Jordan and Epoch has is to have that continuity. To think that we've only made 15 vintages or 15 years of farming in our one location is pretty, that's small potatoes when you look at some other regions and producers. And so we're blessed to have great.
Started in 2005, correct? So we're talking 15 years.
Mm-hmm. And every year has not been the same. So it's interesting. The better you get to know your site is, we're lucky that we have so many colors to paint with, but the region of Paso Robles is renegade in spirit, with kind of lawless and untamed, and
cowboys, entrepreneurs, yay.
So it's I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, I think it's absolutely delicious. And actually, I'm going to quote my friend Chuck, who said, the legacy of Paso is unfolding. And I just love that. Jordan, when was Epoch established? I don't remember.
2004 was the founding year. And then we started planting the vineyards that year, with the majority planted in 2005.
So you guys are sort of concurrent with each other,
I think the Margarita Vineyard was planted before as well. So they probably have more years in the ground. Mm-hmm. Prior to that.
Can I put you on the spot? Do you have the Renegade? Do you mind describing it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll
Is
describe
that
it.
okay? Oh, no, you have, oh, by the way, you're about to find out that Jordan is positively poetic when it comes to especially red wine description, because she does something called a vinpression where she draws pictures of the expression on the palate. But I'm putting you on the spot only because I trust you. You love Amanda and you're going to accentuate the positive. And I'm just curious what your perception of this wine is.
Well, given the fact that it's a 17, I have the 17. Is that the one?
That's the one I've got too. Yep.
And it's so fresh. Like I love Syrah. The thing I love about Syrah is not only the fruity notes, but the reductive notes. In this wine, you can tell it's Syrah driven because it's got this incredible reduction to it.
Now, what does reduction smell like? And that's the opposite of oxidation, right?
Yes, talk about reduction in this wine. It's more of like it's highlighting a bunch of earthy characters, a bunch of sort of spice, not like blueberry, blackberry fruit up front, but you get sort of like this. It kind of goes along with the cowboy renegade theme. Like I feel like I've got like leather, worn leather and tobacco.
And tar. I think there's a tarry character to Syrah.
And I love that about it. And it's like really light on its feet for how robust the variety percentages are with Petit Verdot and Syrah leading. And so I think that is just showing you how you can balance the fruit and the elegance in the site, which is something that, wines of, the 80s from Paso were maybe different in style than they are now. But if you have this idea that all the Paso wines are huge, you should try this wine. And yes, it's got great flavor and it's got great texture and it's voluminous, but it's got so much other stuff going on as well.
To your point too, we're so varietally minded in the US, as consumers, we like to see the name of the grape variety on the label, but we also have made friends with the term blend, right? This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. But to me, when it comes as a sommelier to tasting, I really like it when one varietal doesn't dominate, when it doesn't command your attention and you get sort of this integrated whole. How do you perceive this wine, Amanda? It's your baby.
Well, I just think it's a great representation of the site. There's no one varietal that's overpowering another, and echoing what both you and Jordan have mentioned. But I just think of food, I think of roasted vegetables. I think of grilled meats. I think of what we would have around our dinner table in the summertime.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Hello. Penne pasta with sausage sauce.
I like it.
That's from your tech sheet. I love it. And rosemary lamb chops. You're talking to a Greek. Lamb is a vegetable.
Yeah. Lamb is a vegetable.
Yes.
All I can think of
2
is
bites of lamb.
my daughters, they got into TikTok. The first dance that they both did, and there's 6 years difference between them, was the Renegade song. So that's what goes through my head.
Oh my God. And I have a picture of Amanda's daughter coming up, but I don't have a picture of your daughter. What's her name?
Oh, I have 2, Morgan and Alba, but they just love this song. And I love that there's this wine from Paso that,
I haven't asked anybody to chime in on the first 3 wines. Anybody who's intrepid and has enough alcohol in your veins to take your fear away, want to contribute how you're perceiving either the Epoch White, the Ancient Peaks Inn, or the Ancient Peaks Renegade? Somebody out there, come on. I know that some of you have enough, what the hell spirit to chime in.
We'll chime in. Amy and I loved both of them.
Yay. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. The Zinfandel that we tried was amazing. We're eating a spicy Italian sausage pasta.
Well, your ESP was working. Good. Yay.
So it was absolutely amazing. And then the Renegade we felt was a little bit lighter. Didn't really stand up with the food that we had it with initially. But we have kind of a spicy artichoke with a crostini. That we thought was an unusual pairing, but probably very well. I mean, it was heavy on the garlic side. So I still think that it was an unusual pairing, but worked really well.
That's expressive. Thank you.
She expressed herself very well. Madeline, you asked somebody.
I did.
Ask and you shall receive.
No, I'm kidding. Anybody else want to chime in? And by the way, somebody asked the question about case production. 6,500 cases for Epoch from the ever efficient and helpful Audrey. What's case production from on Ancient Peaks, Amanda? Total cases produced? Do you have that number?
Total cases is around 60,000, and I'd have to do the math. The Zinfandel is, I think it's around 8,000 cases, and the Renegade was about 12,000.
Now, this is full disclosure. One of the reasons I hesitated doing this is you have two wineries that have very different, profiles in terms of average price per bottle and case production. But these people are friends and they're close to each other and they work together. And that just, I can't even tell you, it made me purr. I think it's wonderful because it really shows you that there's something for everyone and there's room for everyone at the table. And one person's $10 wine is another person's $500 wine, right? I, as a working sommelier for, centuries on the floor, never made value judgments about how much money people wanted to spend, how limited or expansive the production was. And I think it's so great that having the two of you here is really a hug to everyone. So thank you for that. And I think we should go ahead and taste the Epoch Estate Red, but one of you or both of you has to chime in at some point about why the Paso community is so tight knit. What is the deal with that?
Everyone's just so happy to be here. I think we love each other. We love working together. It was never, that's one thing that drew the Armstrongs into this place and me as well, because I had lived in Napa and Sonoma and been a winemaker up there. And it's just different. Here, everybody is friends. And up there, I always say, like, my friends who were in the wine industry were people that I had worked with in the wine industry. But in Paso, everybody in the wine industry is my friend. And I've only worked in one place here. So, I've met them all through the years and everyone's just so supportive. It's that, rising tide floats all ships.
But you know what it reminds me of? I don't know when it was over 10 years ago. I was lucky enough to go to South Africa for just a few days. And I watched a panel of like 6 winemakers, South African winemakers. Not only did they know each other really well, they were giving each other all sorts of, talking dirt with each other, holding each other accountable, but they loved each other's wines. And there were no secrets. They shared everything. And that's what Paso feels like to me. Is that a true reflection?
Absolutely. I think that that's one of the wonderful parts about being a lesser known region and agricultural in roots is that, it is the rising tide floats all ships. And having, both of us have, maybe a dozen years of making wine from the vineyards that the fruit comes from. That's not long. And actually, Jordan has been such an inspiration because you saw the tulip and the egg in the picture, and she's got
here we go.
She is every year she's doing a trial. Chuck and I, when we founded Wine Speak, this wine event, one of the things that we added the second year was this winemakers component to share insights and information so that we could all improve, because we're not competing with one another. We're just hoping that people choose wine to put on their dinner table and wine first, and hopefully, they give our region a chance. And like you said, someone's $10 wine can be someone else's $500. And so we're proud to make incredible wines at the price point that we do, which is value. And, we're also equally proud of the work that our neighbors do. And so Jordan is, a shining star in the region for making quality wines, but also from an innovation perspective. She could rest on her laurels, and she doesn't. And her team,
I don't think she's gonna. Nope.
It's pretty magical. I was over there doing something, and people are running around, and there's shakers, and there's trials, and it's so neat because we as a region collectively are still earning our stripes. So I think that's the reason we stick close to it.
Winemaking is a journey, right? And so where I'm at today and where I get to in 10 years is all the steps along the way. And I always tell everyone who buys the wines that they're just along for the journey,
I hope I'm around in 10 years so I can get on your ship once in a while and see where it's risen to. Tell us about these fermentation vessels. So we've seen tulips, we've seen eggs, and what's going on here, Jordan?
I have two different, this is very fitting for this wine, which is also a blend. And I love that we had the Renegade because this is a Syrah-based blend as well. Syrah dominant, but not a varietal Syrah. And we ferment our reds, depending on what the variety is, in the many different vessels. We've got on the left, we have a oak punch-in. So this is a 500 liter. So it's about the size of 2 barrels where we actually take the heads off and ferment the red grapes inside. How we get a richer, more extracted wines made. And then on the right is a concrete fermentation tank, which is different than the tulips that we saw earlier. This is where we ferment our reds. So we have an open air facility. I always tell people, we all know that we talk about terroir in the vineyard, but I very much believe in terroir of your winery as well. And so our winery is on York Mountain, which is very close to the Pacific Ocean. And it has all the things. The windows are open. It just lives and breathes in this environment. And the concrete is a great way to ferment and control the temperature in a very natural way.
So tell me, are all the varietals individually fermented or co-fermented?
When you're talking about blends, so both. So yeah. I truly believe in, if you know what grapes should go together from the beginning, you should co-ferment them if they're ripe at the same time, because it's almost like an upper hand to blending. So a lot of this estate blend is co-fermented, but then some are individually fermented as well. And I call our estate blend, what we're drinking, a snapshot of the growing, our vineyards and our growing area in a certain vintage, along with our winemaking. So it's always like, where was Epoch at in 2016? Like if you try the estate blend, it's a really good snapshot. It's got almost all the red varieties we grow per, percentage wise. It kind of matches up with the vineyard. And then one thing we didn't touch on is we all plant our vineyards in our hillsides. We match them to the rootstock, the variety, and the clone that works on that exposure to the sun and that soil and everything. So it's like a quilt, it's a patchwork. So you drink this wine and every variety is planted in a certain region for a certain reason.
And balance. And I will tell you, I'm gonna pivot away just for a moment because here I am staring at this picture and what all y'all are seeing is someone who is an engineer, left brain, right, with equal part right brain. So what inspired you to draw these pictures? And this is based on the palate, not the nose. Is that correct?
So this is based on the palate, yes. Mm-hmm. My engineering background and I'm very visual. And I was tired of writing just tasting notes to describe the wine because for me, wine is all about the texture. If you do everything right in the vineyard and winery, like the aromas and the actual flavors that you get, I'm talking whether it's like the fruit or the earth or the leather and all those things, they are what they are. I don't want to change those so much. What I want to describe to you when you taste the wine is the sensation in your palate. It's really hard to describe in words. For me, it's much easier to describe in a graph and a drawing. And I love to draw. Mostly like charcoal and graphite, but so this is on a 4-part quadrant. This is a really good example because I've actually drawn the graph in there. You can kind of see, and it's as the wine moves from the front to the back of your palate. So from the left to the right, and the top left quadrant is the front top of your palate, and then going across the bottom is the bottom front as it moves to the back. And like a lot of wines fold back to front after you swallow them. And what is the perception that you're left with?
Is this mid palate? Because this wine really swells mid palate. And I call mid palate the feel and the flavor when I hold the wine in my mouth.
Yes, exactly. That's mid palate right there. And then you can kind of see, I don't want to call it hollow, but like, it's not just like one round fat ball in your mouth. It has all this texture that sets in as it travels back.
I got to tell you. Lot going on here. Everyone, if you hold this wine on your palate, it's got this very lush, it's like a dense thread count. I was searching for that for a moment, very, very tightly knit. But then when you swallow it or you spit it out, well, I'm the only one, I'm not even spitting it out. I'm not driving anywhere. So you get this combination of black fruit, but also licorice. I love the roasted sage or dried herbs, a little graphite, vanilla spice from the wood. You are a one poetic son of a gun, I will tell you. By the way, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's been a fun journey doing these drawings, and I cannot say that they're easy. I thought I was gonna get away with, I love drawing and I'm gonna do words, and now I write the words and I do the drawing, and it's such a mental game to try to put on.
But you know what's great? It's very generous, Jordan. I'll tell you why, because a lot of people struggle to perceive and define, and you're giving them what you perceive, and this is your baby, and maybe they can look at it and go, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't get licorice, but okay, black cherry, you know. I mean, you're giving people words to choose from, and I'm sorry to nudge us along, but I'm enjoying this wine tremendously.
Jeff was asking if this wine is a field blend, and it's not a field blend in the like sort of historic terms of it, but it is in sort of like if you look at our vineyards as a whole, because we have mixed all of the vineyards into this wine. A field blend's normally when it's like one block of a vineyard or just one vineyard that's planted to a bunch of different varieties, and you pick those and you like put them all together in the end. It's like everything.
Now, you've got 3 vineyards, correct? And we talked about Ruski, which I can't pronounce. And then we've got Catapult, which is also in the same growing region,
yes,
Willow Creek.
Catapult and Paderewski are in the Willow Creek district, which is an appellation of Paso Robles. And we don't have York Mountain in this bottling, but in subsequent bottlings, you will see that the York Mountain Vineyard is also in our Epic Red.
We've got some serious rocks here.
So yeah, you can this is circle, that's a whalebone on the left as well. And then you can see the shale at Catapult on the right.
So it's shale as opposed to what in Ruski?
Mostly, Paderewski is mostly limestone, but with some shale. You'll kind of find both weaving in and out as you're in West Paso. But for some reason, Catapult just is this like 2 hillsides and it's mostly shale.
And welcome to life with drones. So you've got more than one aspect going on here, right?
That's totally true. My husband is obsessed with drones, so at least like it's all in the family picture. Yeah. So what's cool is it's these 2 hills, and you can see we've got the different like 360 degrees on both of
There's
those.
one hill, there's the other hill, right?
Really cool. It's not very common for a vineyard to have all the different aspects.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is like a major departure, but I forgot to mention to everyone your lovely little experience, not only with your family's vineyard in Georgia, but at Arajo and at Antinori in Italy, where you met your husband. Is he Italian?
He is. That's where I got my last name.
and oh, well, there you go. So you convinced him that living in California was not a bad idea.
He wanted to come. Who wouldn't want to come here, right? Such a great place.
These are winery and tasting room respectively.
The one thing I want to make sure I point out is that not only do we have the Paderewski Vineyard and the history of Ignacy Paderewski coming to Paso Robles in the early 1900s, but just about a few months after I joined Epic, we had the opportunity to purchase the historic York Mountain property in the York Mountain AVA. And it's the site of the oldest bonded winery in the county. So we don't have a lot of history in Paso, but what we have, we want to preserve. And so history of winemaking, I should say, because there is some there. And so the main history of winemaking in Paderewski kind of follows around, in Paso Robles, follows around Ignacy Paderewski and the York family.
And there is his piano, correct?
Yes, well, we have a piano in our tasting room in honor of him. And way back when Paderewski in the early 1900s hired the York brothers at York Mountain Winery to make his wine. So he took his grapes from the Paderewski vineyard and drove them, or and horse and buggied them to the York Mountain Winery to be made into wine. And that journey is happening with the grapes again today. So we kind of pieced together the history of Paso with the Epic project, which is—
Well, you please tell Bill and Liz that whatever really significant investments they've made are obvious, not only visually, but in the wine too. Our compliments. I mean, look at this tasting room. Whoa.
And that's the old winery. It became our new tasting room. So we used all the materials that were there and resurrected this
field trip when we fly again. Yes.
Yes, it was condemned during the 2003 earthquake, and so it's been rebuilt.
Amanda, are you still with us? You've got
Yes.
to speak to the sustainability issue, because that's very, very important.
Right, like many farmers, sustainability is really, really important, and all of our wines are part of a program called being SIP certified, which is it's fairly rigorous program and focuses on 3 elements that are critical, and that's people, planet, and profitability. And for us, you know, farming just under 1,000 acres, it's something that really we find is a great expression of our values. And so we're proud to be sustainably farmed. And the picture in the middle is our Jaime Munoz, our vineyard manager, and then Doug Filipponi.
Oh, this gentleman right here?
Yes, yes. And then of course my son and my husband picking pumpkins out of our pumpkin patch.
What's your son's name?
His name is Cooper.
Oh, I don't think I met your husband, but I don't think I met Cooper when I was out there.
Well, next time you come. And then Jaime, actually, one of his loves is also agriculture. And so we've got a number of goats on the property that he utilizes for weed abatement. And he and his family is very involved in the 4-H program. And so part of the pumpkin patch, you know, that we grow every year for our employees, but he plants a number of different pumpkins, and then we sell them and donate all of the proceeds to the Santa Margarita 4-H for the next generation of youth in agriculture, because we think that the preservation of agriculture is very important. And so being sustainable means a number of things to us, but it starts with the people, the planet, and the profitability aspect. So we're excited to continue that legacy.
No, I mean, you practice a lot in that vein, and it's very important to you. And I'm looking to see if we have any questions before I wanted to show. I think we're going on to the people picks. Okay, this is from my heart, right? This is Cecilia, Amanda's daughter. And why is she covered with this stuff? What's going on over here?
So our friend Chuck introduced me to Jordan 3 or 4 years ago. And when we were on the call a couple of days ago, Madeline said, well, how did you guys meet? And I just remember my daughter was maybe like 1 or 1.5 at the time. And I have to drive right by Jordan's work on my way to and from work, to my work every day. So I stopped by one morning before I had taken her to grandma's house, and I was just enjoying talking with Jordan, and it's so much right outside the car that she had rifled through my purse and proceeded to put lipstick on. And when they say a little is good, a lot might be better. And I think she took it too far, but every time I think of Jordan, I remember that day. And then I thought, you know what? I don't even care. Like, it's ruined at this point. She's a mess. I'm just going to continue visiting with her because I was thoroughly enjoying myself. So
and here you are. You've got a bud.
Yeah, she's something else, that's for sure.
Jordan, are your daughters the same age?
No, mine are older. I have a 9-year-old and a 15-year-old.
And do they have Italian names? You told me before, but I didn't.
The younger one does, yeah.
What's her name?
Alba.
Alba.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I have to talk about this because this was a special moment for me. I know we are after time, everyone. If you have to peel off, I understand. But if you can hang with us for a few more minutes, we have some really intimate pictures. This was me right after I spoke at Wine Speak, being interviewed by Amanda. It was my favorite interview in my life. I just relaxed. This woman unlocked my heart. And I had a room full of both consumers who are really, my love affair is with consumers, and sommeliers who were doing a staggering job of taking care of us. And I just rattled on about whatever questions Amanda asked me. And afterwards, this beautiful woman came up to talk to us, and I realized sort of in slow motion that it was Pink, whose name is Alicia, correct? And she has her own winery, which is called?
Two Wolves. Mm-hmm. Two Wolves.
Two Wolves, right. And if you're not, it's worth going to the website and reading why she calls it Two Wolves. It's really touching, but her spirit is just staggering. I was so impressed she was there to learn. I was one of many elements of this symposium, but she has her own winery. She was up with a friend and a colleague, and her openness and her receptivity and her generosity of spirit was just staggering. Isn't it true, Amanda?
Oh my gosh. Well, our friend Chuck insisted that you I think were the maybe first one that we'd ever had as a panelist for this event that was just focused on one person. And you know, you've created an amazing legacy of women in the wine industry, and it was so magical to hear your stories and your insights and your wisdom, and you have such a warm and beautiful heart. And she was deeply touched, and in this Instagram post said that there was a tear in her eye from listening to you talk. And I just think that that's what makes wine so wonderful and magical. And hats off to you, Madeline, for, you know, you've changed the game, and you know, and in a number of regions for a number of people in different ways. And you know, I think
you are too kind, and I mean that with absolute sincerity, because for me, this is an example of somebody who hides in plain sight. You know, I'm a sommelier from Michigan, and this is a superstar, but you know what speaks to me, and you are a new bright light, and we haven't even talked about Dream Big Darling yet, but you know, this is about how spirit speaks to spirit. And it really doesn't matter how well known you are, or whether you think you're a nobody. The reality is, when you open up, you know, you have that commonality of spirit that's just terrific. But thank you for the magic of that moment for me. And here we go. Chuck, look at this picture. There's Chuck from Hawaii. There's me, who's probably already tasted too much wine. There's Jordan, yay. And this is an unbelievably dear friend of both Chuck and mine, Nuncio Aliotto, one of the original OG, old guard master sommeliers from San Francisco. And he's E.F. Hutton. We want an opinion that's really an opinion. This man is true to himself. And then this is me and Amanda at Wine Speak, wearing these beautiful, I guess you would say, ochre colored scarves that belong to this wonderful program that Amanda gave birth to, called Dream Big Darling, which provides leadership direction and scholarship opportunities for young women in the beverage industry. And I am privileged to be a part of that. And I had to show this picture because this is an I was here picture. This is actually at a winery called Saxum. Wasn't the owner winemaker there, Jordan, the original consultant to Bill and Liz for Epoch, or do I have that right?
Smith was the first person Bill called when he saw Paso and fell in love with it. Yeah, and he helped them find the property.
Well, one of his corks is in my cane, but at the end of the day, I'm going to remind everyone that after a worldwide search, they hired you. So do we have any more questions that are going on? I don't think so, but you're all hanging with us. Chuck, you want to opine about anything? I know you've been holding back. What do you want to share that we didn't cover?
Well, thank you. I would love to say some things. Finally, what the hell, man?
I was covering the subject,
fast.
man, you know?
I think
But
that's
I would
like the longest time ever he's had to wait.
He's been silent, right?
So I would just like to say something right now, because before some of the people have to go and turn off. Okay, it's fine and dandy. I'm really appreciated. I really love listening to all the stories of both Amanda and Jordan and their journeys and stuff. I think it's all true, and it provides depth into who these people are. But here's the bottom line for me that I would like to share with you, because these two are never, just like Madeline, they're never good at tooting their own horn. That's the bottom line. So let me just say this, so all of you that are still viewing get a clear picture of what's happening here, from my perspective anyway, okay? First of all, let's start off with Epoch. So they mentioned that Justin Smith was involved. Yes, so I was kind of there when they were clearing the land, et cetera, planting and all that stuff. So I got to see this place from the ground up, essentially, truly the ground up. But the thing that was captivating to me is one of the pictures that Madeline showed, is that the slant of the grain of the calcareous soil was at a diagonal. It wasn't horizontal like some of the other wineries. This creates a totally different dynamic in the finished wines because, as Jordan said, the roots go down easier in search of water and nutrients. So you go to all these other vineyards and you'll see that's horizontal. So Epoch, first of all, the Paderewski vineyard is very much about diagonal. Then when you look at the Catapult vineyard, it's a very different soil. And to me, it seems like it's a slightly warmer site. I'm not sure, but it offers a whole different matrix of what can be with each grape that's planted there. And then the third piece that she has to work with, York Mountain, is yet a completely different source of soils and therefore vines and therefore grapes and therefore terroir. So just on vineyard wise, she has 3 very dynamic vineyards to work with. And Paderewski and Catapult are specifically in what I think is a real sweet spot for the whole appellation, in the Willow Creek appellation. It's slightly cooler than some of the other places. So that's what she has to work with. On top of that, then you have this matrix of winemaking tools. And I mean, she's got so many different kinds of concrete and amphora and, you know, just different size barrels. It's incredible, all the things she gets to tinker with. And then you throw in and then you throw in the way she thinks. You saw the pictures. She's got this almost poetic way of putting these blends together like nobody else can. And in an area where Paso Robles has some hot shots that are very 9,900 point kind of wines, 98 continuously from people like Robert Parker. Here's a lady that's able to craft wines that have more elegance, more grace, more civility, more minerality, more deliciousness, more balance, in my opinion, you know, and effortlessly so. And by using the matrix of different soils, grapes, vines, matrix, every single wine is different. It's like the Beatles singing all these different songs, and each song is different. But I have to say, done with grace and civility, and they are wines of the vineyards. They're not a wine of her winemaking, you know. And then when you have one of her wines, and a perfect example of that, before I segue away, is that white wine you all are trying. That's a wine of the vineyard. Forget that it's 50% Grenache Blanc and 50% Viognier. It's a wine of the vineyard. And stainless steel, although I think it's the most popular, it's the easiest to ferment and all that, sometimes it creates tutti frutti wines. You could see that Jordan is using concrete. So for those of you who don't know, sometimes when you use oak, even when it's old oak, it creates a creaminess. It creates you can get subtle hints of the oak. For some people, that's kind of like, you know, muddying the water a little bit. And stainless steel creates this exuberance and this fresh personality. So Jordan has settled on more on concrete. You can see it just frames the wine, gives the wine texture, gives slight oxidation, but it just makes the wine more focused on what the vineyard wants to say rather than any particular grape. Same thing with all of her blends. So, and then the last thing I want to say about Jordan is then when you have the wine 10 years old, like I just had the Veracity 10 years old, and you see everything harmonize and come together, that's when you see the minerality really coming back out. And then it's framed with all this seamlessness and completeness. It's something to behold that you can't get in the other appellations out of California. It's something very unique. It's like what, you know, it's just something that just, it's itself. You know, you can't compare it to anything else. Then I'd like to skip over real quickly to Ancient Peaks and Amanda and the 3 families.
I was going to ask you to tell us how you feel about Amanda.
Oh, she's okay. She's changed ever since she got all these awards. Let me say that. So anyway, I'm just joking. So Ancient Peaks, I've said this at Wine Speak many times before. Ancient Peaks is one of the most important discoveries for me personally in the whole California wine scene. And the reason for that is they have a special vineyard that's roughly 900 acres in size. And it's 1,000 feet in elevation in the southernmost part of Paso Robles. So everybody talks about the fact that the Pacific Ocean is 14 miles away and the cold air comes over the mountains. But in my opinion, it's greatly buttressed by the Cuesta Grade that's only a mile or 2 south. and the cold air that's coming directly from the Pacific Ocean because of that configuration of the cut comes over, you have a dramatically cooler growing area than you do in the general Paso
And the
Robles
altitude, right? The altitude is
Yes,
significant.
1,000 feet. So just to
Right.
put this in perspective, Paso Robles really is roughly at the same altitude as Howell Mountain. That's what people forget. You know, so it is a different environment. And everybody talks about sun, 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 sun. Yes, there's a lot of sun, but there's also 50-degree nights, as Madeline talked about. You know, so it's a very different dynamic. But back to the Ancient Peaks thing. So the reason why it was an important discovery for me was the fact that it's 3 ranching families. Just like for Jordan, it's just this couple, Bill and Liz Armstrong, who when you meet them, you'll see they're truly special people that are totally concerned about the land and the people in the community, which is another topic I'd like to talk about later. But you got 3 ranching families at Ancient Peaks. They ride horses, they're cowboys. It's not foo-foo, it's not, they're all engaged with different parts of the operation, you know? It's just a different reality. It's just, this, they live it. They don't talk about it, they live it. And they, with these great vineyard sources, they make incredible value-driven wines. I mean, I don't mean they're cheap. I'm just saying what you get, and then you look at the price tag when you're at the checkout counter, it's like, holy mackerel. And then you look at that
way over deliver in their
way
price.
over deliver.
Way over.
Without saying a diminishing quality. I mean, where else can you get an estate-grown Cabernet or Zinfandel that price? I mean, that quality at that price.
You can't.
So that's why
Right.
for me it's huge, because I know that the families are giving it all to make sure this thing is preserved and, you know, taken care of sustainably so that they can pass it on to future generations.
But these people are making what, you know, this terroir accessible to anyone. And that's the part of it that I think is really exciting.
So I was chasing them for a long time. And, you know, you guys mentioned with the Renegade today that it had chunks of Petit Verdot and Malbec inside. And there was a wine made for another winemaker that was 50% Petit Verdot and 50% Malbec. I think it was like His Majesty or something like that. And it was a really good winemaker that I respect. And I had this wine and I poured it by the glass. And I did more and more research. He doesn't divulge his grape sources, but after much time, I found it was all from Ancient Peaks. So that's really why I went after Ancient Peaks, was the Zinfandel, the Petit Verdot, and the Malbec, because of the potential I smelled in the wine, you know, just terroir. So the bottom line is, you know, that was an important discovery for me. And all of you guys, hopefully moving forward, you'll look for Ancient Peaks and Epoch on the store shelves or order from them directly, whatever. But I would like to conclude this, Madeline. I'm sorry for taking so much time.
No, go for it.
You guys talk about wine speak and the synergy and the camaraderie, right? That event created. So look at this, ladies and gentlemen. You have 3 ladies that got together at Wine Speak specifically over a panel called Dream Big Darling, Wine from Another's Perspective. One year was Jordan and Amanda that we purposely, intentionally selected because of what they represent. So forget the winemaking part. Just as people, just as humans, what they represent in terms of character and all these other things is pretty crazy, right? And then the following year, Madeline does it just with Amanda by herself, who's 40 under 40, cover of Wine Enthusiast, Wine Person of the Year in the Central Coast. So now all of a sudden we have this podcast with the 3 ladies doing something together, you know, in the right way, and to me, for the right reasons. So it shows you we can make a difference when we get together and share and create camaraderie. And therefore, hopefully it creates collaboration like this, that we can make things better, not only in wines, but the world.
Oh, well said, my dear friend Chuck.
Well, that's all I have to say.
No, that was pretty much of a mouthful. You know, I think lots of love. I mean, the reality is, you know, this came together from the heart, but it bears examination intellectually if you want it to, organoleptically on your palate, on all levels. And it brings us together from what? I think we've got Iowa, Chicago, Hawaii, Michigan, California present. And if I don't share a screen about this, my boss is going to kill me. Bear with me, everyone, just for a moment, because I've got to tell you what we're doing next week. Put your seatbelts on. It's Pinot Noir, so it's okay. And it is indeed California royalty from the North Coast, Rhone. with Carlo Mondavi, who's Tim Mondavi's son and Robert Mondavi's grandson. The wines are ultra premium, but they're pretty gorgeous, from the Sonoma coast. And one piece of actually delicious business is, because I almost forgot to show this, this is a sale we're running right now. We don't do discounts. If anyone knows Plum, it's case price from bottle one, because we're very aggressive price point wise, but we're doing a holiday sale because commonly we would have this tasting with 200 people in the room, but we can't do that right now. So it's online through November 15th, and I'm going to email you the code where you can get another 10% off. It's luxury wine, lowercase, no one word. And I should send this to you, Chuck. We're doing a different one in Chicago. So I'll send everybody both for the Chicago peeps, if you don't mind commerce for one moment, because it's pretty cool. That said,
hey, Madeline.
Yes.
Madeline,
what?
can I just say that list? Excellent selection, first of all. I wish we had something like this in Hawaii, I promise you. And at the same time, excellent prices.
Our prices are wicked, Chuck. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'll send everybody both PDFs, the one for Chicago and the one for Michigan, because the one in Chicago is importer driven. You'll like that one even better, Chuck. It's Dressner, it's Winebow, it's Kermit Lynch, it's all those guys. And the one in Michigan is more sort of, a little more commercial in the sense of higher profile names with a lot of Bordeaux's. We didn't let anybody get a word in edgewise. Anybody want to chime in? I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to go steam some vegetables and dream about, lamb chops.
I do.
Yes, please.
I just want to say hi to everybody. I was able to go to Wine Speak, and if you ever have a chance to go, it's life-changing. And those vineyards are beautiful, and I'm blessed to have been there, especially this year. It's my highlight of 2020. It was wonderful.
What a statement. The highlight of 2020. Yay. Chuck, I saw Ariana on earlier. Absolutely stunning sommelier. I forgot to say hello to her. Will you give her my love, please? And
yeah, so she left because she's doing a Zoom shortly. The Sound Voyage, if any of you guys want to continue the party, and she's doing her own little thing. She's a breath of fresh air. She's the other part to this trio of strong, incredible examples of women is this girl Ariana from Hawaii.
Can you type in the link in the chat room in case anybody?
I'll ask Amanda can forward that. She knows. I'm not computer savvy.
Well, I'm here right now. I just wanted to that note, say something really
Ariana,
quickly.
you're there.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Great presentation. I love the photos. I love, especially seeing the kids. It really rings true that it's a family production, all hands on deck. But something that I also wanted to just comment about is, the wines are lovely and the vineyards are amazing, but also with the theme of Paso Women Rock, I got to visit Jordan and Amanda, and they're not just amazing wine people, they're great leaders. Just going to Wine Speak, and Jordan's team really, really trusts her, and they went to the seminars and they're listening to her, they're listening to the industry. So they're really, really in tune at Epoch. And then Amanda she has this awesome entourage of women that get things done, and they're just phenomenal leaders in their own right. So I just wanted to say thank you and hi to that.
Ariana, thank you for jumping on. Will you type in the chat room the link if there's someplace somebody can go to enjoy your company with what you're doing next? Will you do that? Great.
Yes, give me one moment to do that right now.
Pretty much everyone stayed on till 8 o'clock. God love you. Anyone else want to chime in? Comments on the wine? Love Chicago, love Hawaii, love Michigan, love California. This was truly one of the best tastings I've ever experienced. Nathan, you've been very quiet, but Nathan Kunzman from TWP is our distributor here in Michigan for Epoch. And you made these accessible to us as well as Rhone last week. Thank you. Did you have fun?
This was a great time. Yeah, thank you so much for including us, Jordan. It's good to see you from a far away distance. looks like the sun's setting out there too. So finally seeing what we're seeing at 5 o'clock these days. But yes, Madeline, thank you. Really well done. And Amanda, nice to meet you.
And we have Mike Pfeiffer, who's our wine team leader for one of our Ann Arbor stores. Mike, thank you. He's saying hi. This was cool, wasn't it? And hopefully you've got some of the wines in front of you. I think they made them accessible to you and Rod. If you don't have them tonight, you'll be able to taste them, yes?
No, I've got 3 of them. The Epic Red we're going to taste. We're going to taste all of them tomorrow with the team, but the Epic Red we're going to taste also tomorrow with the team. I will tell everybody out in Paso that Madeline came back from her visit last year and has not stopped talking about Paso Robles. And honestly, these are, I've ridden with Ancient Peaks Zinfandel for years now, both restaurant and now with Plum. These were fantastic, and hats off to everybody in Paso. You're kind of changing it. You've always had the renegade attitude or the renegade way of thinking, and from Ann Arbor, Michigan, keep it up because you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so glad you piped up. Mike is one of the people I get to taste with regularity, and I really value his opinion. Well, this was a good time, don't you think? A big hug to everyone. A bientôt. Hopefully we'll see you for Rhone next week. And Amanda and Jordan, friends forever. That's all I can say, And I just want, when I come out there, to get grilled eggplant in the Santa Maria recipe, if somebody can make that happen for me. Thank you everyone for your company. We will make this link accessible, and take a quick look. I'll stay on for a minute because Ariana put her, the link on for the next thing that she's doing. And I want to make sure you get that. And actually what I'll do, can I do this? Do I actually have the technology to do this? Oh my God, am I smart enough to do this? I don't think I am. I'm trying to copy. Oh my God, I copied it. Yay. I will send it to you. Okay. Thanks everyone. Have a good evening. Stay strong, stay safe, stay cheerful in these continually extraordinary times. Let's just celebrate 2020, Definitely took us all out of every damn comfort zone we've got. Is that a fair statement?
So
Absolutely.
Please keep your families safe.
Thank you.
All the best to you, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much for joining. Kisses to Hawaii. Bye.